Porsche Exchange, it's all about creating a legendary ownership experience that embodies our guests' lifestyle. Our Porsche service team utilizes cutting-edge technology that delivers a transparent service visit and keeps us in constant contact with our guests. And I can't think of anyone more qualified to work on your Porsche, new or classic, than our Porsche certified technicians. Whether you're a longtime guest or new to our dealership, I welcome you to experience legendary at the Porsche Exchange. If you're a Porsche owner looking for reliable, convenient service without leaving the comfort of your home or office, look no further and take advantage of the Exchange at Home complimentary pickup and drop-off service exclusively at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park.
The list of famous tracks we've been visiting continues to mount. Suzuka and Spa carry plenty of weight, but Interlagos has been the scene of amazing drama and racing history. Wheeling these GT4s around here will be a recipe for action as we get ready to watch the PCA Sim Racing Series 10 Sport Class live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Michael Johnson. Cameron Aubernon is on social media with Ryan Bauer producing, who's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. But before we get to the racing, Series 10 is brought to you by the Porsche Exchange, which has been family owned and operated for over 40 years. Located on the North Shore of Chicago, the Porsche Exchange has grown to be the largest volume Porsche dealer in the entire Midwest. Along the way, they've won the Porsche Premier Dealership Award for many years in a row and has been chosen to be one of the few Porsche exclusive manufacturer dealerships in the entire country. Find out more at forporsche.com or follow them on Instagram at Porsche Exchange. Also, Six Sigma Sim Racing is proud to announce the Season 10 Clean Driver Award. One driver in each PCA Sim Racing class will win a Six Sigma Sim Racing $250 merchandise gift certificate. This goes to whoever earns the fewest incident points and license penalty points from their best 6 races this season. For more information, head to sixsigmasimracing.com. Now, we've come to Interlagos, which, as we've seen in the previous 2 races, Michael, is really a track of 2 halves.
It really is. It sort of reminds me of Suzuka, which is funny because I've been working on Suzuka with a different group all week long. But there's such incredible, tight little, you've got to be absolutely millimeter perfect stuff that happens here with some nice long straights that come off of some fairly slow corners. Now this offers you some opportunities for passing, like I would say probably turn 4. If someone makes a mistake there, they're going to go wide. They're going to go off track. You're going to be able to get around them. But if they make enough of a recovery, then your next really big opportunity is going to be up coming out of Lorenzina, the little orange tree, into turn 8, getting into that the kind of horseshoe around there through the S. Now, coming up to Joe's favorite corner of all time, the duck bill, you do get a good passing opportunity there because there are a couple of different ways to get in and out of that corner. And then, of course, you've got to absolutely nail it down in Yonsao because that is essentially a straightaway. It's technically, I think, 3 corners, 12, 13, and 14, I suppose, when you come out of there. But it's ultimately a long uphill straight. And if you don't nail it, you're really going to suffer in timing and give someone a pass down into turn 1. So those are really your points to watch for major action here. But this track, man, it is tough because passing is really going to involve someone else making a mistake.
Absolutely. And, well, they kind of need a mistake from Daniel Nix, if we're honest. He's had 3 straight wins in a row recently here in the sport class. And because of the drop weeks, he's basically almost 100 points ahead of the next car down for Lee Binkley there at 672. So everybody kind of just scrabbling for the rest of the positions. But you never know. Things could always change, and we could have some drama here today. It's still some pretty close fights between Binkley and Crummell down there. And then if you take a look at Eskridge and Boyer, there's a mere 15 points between those two as well, and only 5 points between Yokel and Adams in 9th and 10th. So definitely some tight battles, considering it's 385 max points for a win. When you're talking about 5 points difference, that is very, very small margins. Now, a reminder that PCA Sim Racing social media offers in-race reports, breaking news, and announcements through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. To subscribe, key in the platform name and add /PCA Sim Racing. Now we have the last minute of qualifying happening, and Daniel Nix only has this lap that he's just doing now to try and improve on fourth, and it looks like he does not. He will stay no better than fourth place. He doesn't have enough time to come around and set a final lap.
Well, fourth place is not a bad place to start at this track. There's always a little bit of consternation going down into the Senna S, the first little downhill left-hander back around to the right, and jockeying for position and trying to defend with, a good couple of dozen cars behind you. You never know what's going on. And being on that second row, you're really in a good position to place yourself in the right place, because after the second part of Senna S, you've got a good blast down that straightaway and a little more speed to do it. I see Daniel Nix actually making up probably, let's roll the dice. It says 2 places by the time he gets down to turn 4.
Yeah, we've seen some big moves at the start, but let's see where they start in general, as Ken Eskridge has taken the pole over Andy Green in second and Jordan Daniels starting third. As we mentioned, Daniel Nix was not overtaken by anybody there at the end. He'll stay P4 as Curtis Crummell will start from fifth. John Gibson will be to his outside in P6. And you've got David Palmer 7th and Charlie Boyer in 8th. Steve Komatz will be on the inside of row 5 with Adam Gerling to his outside.
Looking at P11, that's going to be Kevin Yokel alongside Mark Collingwood, Antonio Da Silva, Lee Brinkley on the next row. Will Manchia is going to be in 15th alongside Jeff Williams, Robert Neville, Michael Adams, David Boyer, and Patrick Gill is going to round out your top 20.
Anchor Bergzona will be 21st with Carl Boccieri in 22nd. Then you've got Matthew Scott starting 23rd. Andrew Elsom will start from 24th. He's got David Krutzler on the inside of the next row, followed by Craig Smith. And then Ward Preston start 27th. After that, it's Eli Peacock in 28th, Mark Frost 29th, and Adam Hall in 30th. Randy Teague last on the field in 31st here today. Relatively close field as well. 2 seconds from pole to last place of 31 cars. That is pretty darn tight. And we'll see if that means we get some tight racing out of it as well. Did seem like tires were at a bit of a talking point, but not in the sense of needing to take all 4 of them, Michael. We have drivers doing weird things like taking 2 or only 1 in one case because of the short fuel stop.
Yeah, pretty short on these fuel stops for this one. It doesn't take a whole lot of fuel to finish the race. And sometimes, if you think about it, replacing that one tire is going to be so much quicker. It's not going to get a lot to replace the other tire on that side. I would be surprised if we see anybody taking 4 tires unless they're just out of it and want to enjoy the rest of the race. But the people who are really deep into the competition, I'm going to bet 1 or 2 tires, and that whichever one is getting the most wear, one of your front tires, probably that right front, is just going to get hammered, and that's the one you're going to want to replace and run the rest of the race for.
It's pretty decent weather conditions at only 82 Fahrenheit, so hopefully that should help some of that wear and tear. But multiple drivers in the previous 2 races of the Club and Pro have mentioned that they'll start to wear out by the end of the race if you don't take care of them. So who's going to have to try and do that, and who will manage to get a tire in their pit stop or 2 to try and pick up some pace after their first stint is over. So pace car getting ready to release the field, and then it's going to be under the control of Ken Eskridge on the pole. He does have to wait for the call from Barney, though, up on the flag stand, and he's hanging back quite a bit. A green flag is out, and actually that hurts Andy Green. He does not go at all. When he finally gets on the loud pedal, he's being overtaken, is down to the inside. It looks like we're going to go 3 wide for second place. Oh, we got an accident in front of the field. Unfortunately, cars are stacking up, and there is a parking lot.
Ooh, big parking lot it is, but What was the prediction I made for Daniel Nix? Did I say up 2?
Second.
Wow, look at that. I got one right. I finally got a prediction right. Looks like he might get retaken, though. This is a good run from Andy Green coming down into turn 4. Decides to hold off just a little bit, still sticking the nose in there a tiny little bit to give him a little bit of a notice. Hey, I'm here. I'm still racing. But, yeah, I think looks good for Daniel Nix this race, too.
Yeah, Green really wanted it, almost got into the back of him, but decided to try and back out there. Didn't need more issues here on the first lap, especially considering, look at Eskridge pulling out to a 1.5 seconds, and we're not even done with the first lap here. He's looking very strong, which could be bad news for Nix, although not championship-wise, just if he wants to keep these wins up.
Yeah, and honestly, Nix probably knows he doesn't need to do too much. He's got a battle going on because essentially there are 3 cars behind him all really itching to get past, and I think Eskridge knows that and is trying to make hay while the sun shines here, saying, look, if I'm gonna win this race, I better get pretty far out in front. So like I said, making hay while the sun shines, and now he's 1.9 seconds out in front.
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm with you. He's doing the exact thing he needs to do right here. So Daniel Nix. Oh, and did Green jump the start? Yeah, he's got a black flag. Wow.
Ooh, interesting. That could have been he had passed. It might be that he passed Eskridge on the start line. I'd have to go back and take a look at that. But if he's passed him on the start line, that is a black flag.
That you might be right. Yeah, if he was in front there across the timing line, then yeah, they may have called him on that. So unfortunate there for Andy Green, but so far, despite the big stack up that we saw, only Green has visited pit lane. It looks like Curtis Crummell, and I think that's to take his spare car. Yeah, that was to get in and take that. So everybody else was able to carry on from there, and at least we've got quite a pack that is still racing. It's just unfortunate this has spread them out pretty far.
Yeah, and that happens at this track. You do kind of get your different pelotons kind of running through here. We're on board with Andrew Ellison right now. He's trying to get into that top 10, looking at the tail of Patrick Gill. He's got a good opportunity here. If you notice how much more of the track we see Andrew using here, he's got a much better, much cleaner line. He's down onto the apron there, or into that really wide curbing. I think he's setting himself up here to come down into Yunsao. Watch how far out he comes. Oh, ooh, he's going to try for the pass there. That was brave, but good. Pushes him off the line, pushes him off that apex. Now it's a drag race to head up to the start-finish line.
Does look like Gill carried great speed there. Elsom not beside him. He's going to hope that the draft does him at least a few favors, but it hasn't looked that powerful in the previous 2 races, and no, doesn't look like it is going to help Elsom here today as they push through to the Senna S. And in front of them, a little bit of a battle between Jeff Williams and Kevin Yokel for the 8th position. Kevin will retain that spot, so all 4 cars stay in the same position.
Yeah, a little bit around here. We're going back to Mark Frost out of the Oregon region. Moved up a good bit. Started in 29th up to 21st. A little bit of that is from that little parking lot we had at the beginning of the race. But like I said before, you need other people to make a mistake to really be able to make an easier pass here. This is an insanely difficult track as we take a look at Carl Boltieri.
Yep, he's going to get one over on Neville, but it looks like Robert wants to fight back, and no dice. He's going to have to back out of it. Check in with the webcam of Carl, who gives a little glance to the mirror and then decides to come back to the racing line. Yeah, there's definitely some drivers that took well advantage of what was happening out there. There's a few that have gained 14 positions since the start.
Wow, 14 is a lot. A couple of 14s, a couple of 13s, but I do see a loss of 16, a loss of 20. So yeah, that's where some of those came from, but not all of them. You got to give these guys some credit too. They're taking advantage of just making it through the mess a whole lot better. So we're back on board again here with Steve Komax back in P23. He's looking at the back of David Kutzler. And I think he's a little bit too far back, but does a beautiful job under braking. Now watch him carry this speed here. Good power to the outside, uses absolutely every last bit of track that he can. Now he's going to have to take advantage of the tiny bit of draft that you get here. It's not a whole lot. So he's going to try to sit right there in it and get every little last half a mile per hour that he can as they head up towards the Senna S's.
A few drivers just taking a little bit of a peek, but nothing doing this time down into the Senna S. Looks like Charlie Boyer's also into pit lane, and that was for a black flag. I wonder if he was considered the start of that big incident. No, because he started in 8th. That actually might be it.
That could be. Now, I'm also looking through the field. We're looking up right here. This is Jordan Daniels. He is doing quite well. He's held on to this P3 since the beginning of the race. He's only gotten passed by Daniel Nix, who was in P4. And that was, as I predicted. I'm going to keep patting myself on the back for that prediction because that never happens like I want it to. But holding on to that P3, kind of just watching what's going on, is about 1.5 seconds off. He's in a good position to just have a Sunday drive home to the end of the race and score good points.
One thing I do want to clarify is we're going to hop on board with Nix, who's still holding at about 1.5 seconds behind Ken Eskridge. For those that aren't as familiar with the series, that was highly unusual. This series touts itself on clean starts and clean racing. So to see an incident at the very beginning and one that took up so much of the pack is extremely atypical. I did get a chance to look back at Boyer, and it was him that caused that big incident. He went 4 wide around the outside there into the Senna S, and unfortunately just got tipped across everybody.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but that kind of thing happens from time to time in racing, and you surprise yourself. I would never think that anyone in that position did it intentionally. It was just, there's an opportunity. Whoops, that's not the opportunity I thought it was. But I would like to go take a look. We've got Jeff Williams, who's been really putting the screws to Kevin Yokel. Oh, I just lost a little space on that one. So I wanted to go take a look at that, but he's going to have to close up that gap once again. Let's go back on board with Car Bolchieri here. Bolchieri, he's trying, I'm just tossing that L anywhere into his name that I can find. But look at that right up on the inside. Can't quite make it stick. Good move there. But just like you were saying, normally we expect everybody in this group to be very respectful of space. Carl did a beautiful job there to put his nose in there, but not press the issue too far and cause a collision.
Eli Peacock and Robert Neville were trying to see if they can get involved because of that checkup, but no dice. And this is starting to form one of those trains that you mentioned. Randy Teague up at the front of it, trying to play defense with Carl Boccieri, Robert Neville, Eli Peacock, Steve Komatz, David Krutzler, Mark Frost. All of them are in a line.
Ooh, and Carl just made a really nice attempt going up in Pico de Bato right there, the duckbill. He almost was able to get past Randy Teague and makes another interesting move. Now, we're coming down into Yunsao, gets a good apex, puts the hammer down. See, he could have taken a little bit more. I think he had about another 2 miles per hour he could have carried at apex there, and he'd be in a little better position because if you notice, Randy Teague is opening up that gap. Now, Carl has to pull out to keep those guys behind him out of his draft so that he can kind of maintain the position he's in. But it looks like he got a pretty decent run, not too far back. Watch for him to close up here in the Senna S's.
Move around the outside there behind him between Peacock and Komatz, but Komatz can't seem to get it done. Has to back out of it. He might get another bite, as now we're going to check back in with Daniel Nix here. Ooh, he's cut it down by about
3/10. Wow, he's up to 3/10. He's decided to light this thing on fire. Look at him go. So I wonder if Ken Eskridge might have made a mistake, but his last lap was about 0.5 second slower than Nix. So that was pace for at least half of that gap. Nix is really closing this up nicely, and now he's in a beautiful position. So hold on, watch this till they come down into Yunsao here. Going up into this heavy interbraking, get way out on the outside. Look at how he just swings that car around. Beautiful conservation of momentum. Notice how wide he got on the exit of Yunsao. This puts him in a beautiful position to probably, well, no, not probably, maybe have an opportunity getting up into Senna S. Now, we'll see what happens when they get up there. A little bit of a cut coming back across start finish. Little bit of a defensive line as Nix goes wide to the outside, setting it up for that run down to turn 4.
Was trying to watch the lap times between them, and Eskridge had an errant 39.9, and everything else has been 40.7s, just banging them out. Unfortunately, that's been slower than Daniel Nix, as is obvious, but Nix himself has not been very consistent. Let's see if he can change that here, if he can get to the lead, and he was thinking about a move into Interlagos, but was not able to make it stick. But certainly he's already poking and prodding.
Yeah, I think the lack of consistency on the part of Daniel Nix has been because of the traffic that was fighting him. Now that Jordan Daniels is, about 2.5 seconds back behind him, he has less to worry and can focus out the windshield instead of on that rearview mirror.
On board with Craig Smith, though, fighting for 15th. They've also got Will Munguia there in the 907 just in front of them. So a 3-car train for this one as they head down into the infield out of the horseshoe. There is Holland stuck in the middle between the pair of them. And they're hearing a connection warning for one of the cars, it sounds like, as Holland is one of those that has definitely gained a lot of spots, up 15 since the beginning, started 30th, so second to last on the field. Oh, and we've had a problem for David Palmer.
Interesting. Let's go on board here with Andrew Ellison again. He's up in P11, still trying to take a look at that position 10, once again in the top 10 there with Patrick Gill right in front of him in that purple car. Now, can he make the run coming up the hill here? This is a tough spot. We have not seen a lot of advantage of being in a draft. And honestly, you get up to the braking zone, you kind of need to be out of it, because what little downforce you have in these GT4s is really helpful when you get heavy into that braking.
Looks like we got a replay. And this is Palmer, like I was talking about. Makes a move down to the inside, and it looks like it's successful at this stage. Then into Essa. Oh, he wants another, and maybe that was a little too greedy because it went south in a hurry.
Yeah, I would have done the same thing, but I think I probably would have been a little more aware and backed out earlier. At least I like to think I would have done that, but, it was kind of a shared position there. Kind of a racing incident at that point. I don't know that we'll see too much of a eye cast that way from race control.
Yeah, we'll see if that gets addressed or not. Usually they try to look at every incident, and now we're on Craig Smith once again, back here in 16th spot behind Adam Holland, who we were just talking about, picking his way forward bit by bit. Maybe this is now more defense than anything, now that he is kind of evened out and everybody's trying to get their positions back after being checked up there at the start of this race. We're only a quarter of the way into this thing, so there is a long way to go. And if Adam is playing defense, it's going to be a long race for him.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. Now, is there damage on the front of Michael Adams's car?
Daniel Nix around the outside, coming down into the Senna S, inside of the second corner, but he gets chopped off, and he saves it from making contact with Ken Eskridge, who now pulls away by a few more tenths. So there was one try, but that didn't quite work.
Yeah, a little bit of sweat wiping off the palms there, even though he's wearing gloves. That got pretty tight, but that is the respectful racing we're used to seeing here. Just like we were saying, everybody does their part to be a respectful racer. They know everybody's got a race going on. That was a really good move there. Now, that's the kind of move Jordan Daniels wanted to see, because that's going to slow those guys down. It is down to right at just about a second for Daniels when he's looking at the tail of Daniel Nix, who's, about half a second back now off of our leader Eskridge. So Daniels now has a good opportunity to close this up. Now we see even back to 4th, 5th position there, things are starting to tighten up a little bit. I think this is starting to get people into the position to jockey for their exit of the pit rotation.
By the way, Palmer actually did get penalized for that incident that we saw a little bit earlier. So he's in pit lane with a 20-second stop and hold for contact, unfortunately. Meanwhile, watching the fight here down through the infield as we see the battle between some of our drivers fighting for the middle position, such as Michael Adams here in 13th with Antonio De Silva just in front of him. And that's Andrew Elsom up there in the 718, appropriate number for this car. They're all way too early for a pit stop at this stage, so we expect them to carry on, but I don't see any of them close enough for an attack down into the first corner, so this is probably going to stay as is.
Now, Michael Adams has really opened that gap up. Will Mangia was trying to close that up, was actually pretty close for a while there. But now Adams is pushing hard up onto De Silva. I think Adams has a good opportunity to make a pass. So let's see what Adams does. Already up 5 positions today. De Silva up 1. I think somebody's hungry. Speaking of hungry, though, coming back to Daniel Nix. Wow, look at how much he's closed this up. There was a good bit of a gap. He's down to a quarter second. He's trying that wide line. Look at the defense from Eskridge. Eskridge does not want this opportunity to present itself again. He is holding hard defense here as we head up to the duckbill. Getting down onto it. Look at that. Oh, I think this is a little bit better from Nix. Nix has the better positioning, better launch out of the corner. Now let's watch as we come down into the hard braking zone of Yunsal. Nix stays farther out, gets back onto the throttle sooner. Now he's right at 3/10, coming down 2/10. This could be a pass as we get up into probably past start finish, right up into the braking zone of Senna S.
What a crucial moment for Nix to get a good run here. Will this be enough? Because he can't dilly-dally messing around with Eskridge. Daniels, as you mentioned, is there. And if they start making slower laps going side by side, it's going to be a 3-way battle. But around the outside, once again, that didn't work for Ken before. He tries to cut back, or for Daniel before, I should say. And it looks like the cutback, unfortunately, did not work, though. He does stay tight to the rear bumper of that number 28. The question is this enough to try something into turn 4?
Yeah, now what he's going to try to do is get him to push too deep to get into the corner. And, a little bit earlier braking than I think Daniel was expecting. Very smart move from Eskridge. Be gentle as you get in there and then open up. Just mash that throttle as you head through the apex and open up that gap a little bit. He has brought that out to about 7/10. So exactly the right thing for Eskridge to do. Not unsafe in any way. He was absolutely brilliant in his defense through that sector.
Yeah, and here is another crucial factor in all of this. Lee Binkley back in 7th is second in the championship. This 7th place is not going to cut it. He's already 100 points behind Daniel Nix. He's going to have to boogie here.
Yeah, boogie, there's got to be a lot of boogieing going on to get that much done. But it's interesting to note, we've been watching Eskridge and Nix just going at it hammer and tongs. Once it's gotten closed up here, there was that big gap. You'd think, oh, they're running times hard. They're running to the absolute edge of the limits of the track. Well, yeah, they are at the absolute edge, but not going over. Both drivers currently at 0 incident points, so they haven't gone over the edge of the track limits. They haven't made contact with another car or even a wall. So really good job from these two drivers who are, like I said, going at this hammer and tongs.
Another try into turn 1, and still Nix can't quite make it happen. The good news is, I guess the way he's doing it isn't costing them. They're actually growing the gap back to Daniels, and maybe he's trying to set himself up for here. Can he make the pass down into the Interlagos? Big defense from Ken, and still no real opportunity. The cutback off the corner doesn't produce fruit, so they stay P1 for Ken, P2 for Daniel.
Yeah, but watch out as they come up to Essa, because Daniel has been taking a little bit wider arc around the outside as Ken tries to defend on that inside. See how much of a difference they've got here. He's able to get around the outside, but not quite enough. He's just trying to press the issue, I think. He's like, you know what? We've got somebody pretty close behind us. I think it's time for us to move out, because Jordan Daniels is only 1 second behind them.
Yeah, that time it did slow them down quite a bit. So Whatever he was doing before did not work this time. We've only had one DNF so far, just as a heads up. David Krutzler is out of this race so far. Everybody else is back out on track after any damage they've had to repair. That was a very good exit from Daniel Nix. He's much, much closer. He's within about a car length of Ken Eskridge, and with Jordan Daniels now within 0.8 of a second, surely he has to try and get this one done this time.
Yeah, and I think he's got this one here. It depends on the defense Ken is able to put up. Ken has been defending every corner beautifully, but looks like going into braking. Nix can't quite get around, tucks it back underneath, tries to get the run through the last part of Senna S. Is he going to be able to make this down into Desira del Lago?
Ken is just putting on a beautiful wall of defense here. I can't believe he's managed to hold Daniel back as much as he has and hasn't lost all that much time, continuing to run the inside just to cover him off. And yet each and every time he's not losing enough that Daniel can manage to get the run off the corner. Now Jordan Daniels, though, is within 0.6 of a second. He has eaten up what he has lost, and it is indeed becoming a three-car fight.
Yeah, and I think there needs to be some communication between Daniel and Ken at this point if they want to get away. Now, notice again, Ken is taking that super tight line, and what has that done? That has brought Daniels within about half a second or less off the tail of Daniel Nix. So Jordan Daniels has been able to close this up simply because of the battle from the two cars in front of him. So these guys really need to go back to focusing front and pull away from Daniels if they have the tires left. They have been going at it so hard, they've probably started wearing out their tires. They may not have the grip that Daniels does, because look how Daniels going through that corner. We had that onboard shot from his sim rig. You could see there was not a lot of wheel input. He's not having to scrub those front tires to get through there. He's really making fantastically efficient use of his tires, his car, his self. So he's doing exactly what he needs to do as we watch once again trying to set up on that outside. Beautiful defense once again from Eskridge.
This time, though, he pinched him down a little bit longer, and that forced a shallower line from Ken Eskridge. Is this going to be enough? It doesn't look like it. And they did run away from Daniels a little bit, so they've gotten slightly more clear, but it seems like it's the infield section where they lose the most time. And still nothing down through the Desira del Lago. So if Daniel Nix is not careful, he could open the door too much into Essa. This time he gets the better run. He's actually got some overlap as they head into the horseshoe. Both of them super shallow down into that turn. Neither willing to give way in this game of chicken. And not going to have enough of a run into Essa this time, will the number 20. And Daniels once again closing on the back of them, saying, sharing is caring, guys. Why don't you share this fun with me?
No more chicken as we head up into the Duck's Beak because, well, we've changed birds at this point. But look at this. Once again, closing up. Daniel is much, much quicker because he's not running quite the defensive line. He takes a wider entry going into Yunsao. Can he get the hammer down again? He uses so much more track on the exit there. Ken is still trying to stay defensive, and this is not even letting Daniels close up. Daniels is still about 0.6 of a second off the back of Nix. Nix is down to right at a 10th. Is he going to be able to hold him down to that wall? He's making him stay. Now Daniel Nix pulls way to the outside, shoots around. He's got a nose in front going through the first part of the Senna S. Can he hold it through the second? He's got a nose in. Oh no, it looks like, Eskridge comes down onto Nix as they go through the corner and gets himself spun.
Ooh, I'm not sure how the stewards are going to see that. There was a little bit of ghost contact involved, I'm pretty sure, from what I could see from my angle. Let's take another look at it here, though. From above, this should be a better one to try and see. Do they actually make contact? No, and of course, the pit building is in the way right at the absolute worst time. But yeah, I don't know how you call that one because he had to have been given space.
Look, Eskridge is in front right there. When they're right at the apex, Eskridge is in front. It's just the hammer comes down quicker for Eskridge. Nix was actually in front as they went through the first part of that. They have to share the corner at that point. Look at that. See, you've got Daniel Nix in front. Now, looks like Ken's able to get the power down a little bit better, but doesn't give that racing room that's necessary to give.
We did see a healthy dose of netcode in that sent Ken back to 5th once he got it rolling. Thankfully, nobody else hit him despite being prone across the track. So, yeah, I agree. He needed to give racing space, but I think he did. It just, unfortunately, the netcode a little bit more to blame, and I have no idea how race control is going to call that one, because they were both fighting hard, but respectfully, it just wound up, unfortunately, victim to the things that happen with sim racing from time to time. This promotes Adam Gerling up into 4th and John Gibson onto the podium now. Daniels was close to Nix, but he's quickly dropping off in the meantime. We've also had a penalty for Randy Teague for a separate incident we haven't shown, where he was given a 20-second stop and hold. What about Patrick Gill here, sending it deep up into the Senna S, but he's going to make the apex, and that'll get him ahead of Jeff Williams.
Yeah, Williams not putting up too much of a fight there. I think he realized Gill had the best of him when they came out of Yunsao. So now we're back to P15 with Craig Smith trying to make a little bit of room coming through there. Gets the nose in. Can he hold on to this as they come down the... Yeah, this was on Adams, right? So Adams had that... No, it wasn't Adams. Somebody had that nose damage that I was talking about earlier.
And they're going to make side-to-side contact heading into turn 4 there. Craig Smith gets ahead of Will Munguia, but it's getting rough for a couple drivers out there now.
Yeah, it looks like this track, it sometimes brings in that little bit of aggression because, like I was saying before, there's not a lot of opportunity to pass. Somebody really has to make a mistake. And if you see a small mistake, you think it's enough to make that pass, and you find yourself in a very bad position. So I don't know if that's creating extra frustration or what's going on, but for me, it seems like that's what's going on.
Is that Max Verstappen's excuse? The track gave him too much red mist.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, anyone Max can find, and it's I've named my dog Kimi after Kimi Räikkönen, of course, and my mother named her cat Max, after Max Verstappen.
That's wild. We're back with Will Munguia once again. He's not giving up on Craig Smith. He's going to try and take this one back, and he's got a good toe here. The 74 needs to pick a lane here in a bit, although it does kind of weave across the track slightly here as they come up these slight kinks to the left here along Subito's boxes. Whoa! That was a send and a half, but it actually worked. He made it through.
Oh, wow, that was quite the run through there. Now, I'd have to take a look at the rules because I so many different rules on defense, what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. Some of them are you can zig, but you can't zag. So essentially, per quarter, you get one move. Other sets of rules say you cannot move in response. I don't remember which one PCA uses. Hopefully somebody can clarify for us if it's the zig but not zag or move in response, and we'll get back to you as soon as we find out.
Well, Craig Smith is going to get that one right back from Will down into turn 4. And guess who's rocked up on the scene? Carl Boccieri is here, been watching with a front row seat and maybe wanting to get involved himself. They also have Curtis Crummell back there, who has made a visit to pit lane, or started from pit lane. I'm not sure which. Whoa, another mistake. And another spot gone for Will. The 907 almost gets into the back of Boccieri, but they managed to make it through the Ducks Bill cleanly.
Was that a smile on the face of Carl Boccieri that I saw? Looked like the little hint of one starting there, because right as he went by, I thought, oh, okay, yeah, we got a nice little smile coming there. But good position gain for Carl Boccieri.
And the stewards agree with your assessment. Ken Eskridge, 20-second stop and hold for the incident through turns 1 and 2. So he's going to have to pay the piper for that one, and he is already in pit lane. I wonder if he's just going to take his pit stop and get the extra long penalty that you get when you try and serve that, as these guys are going to go by that action down into the Senate S once again, but single file between the trio of them, and Boccieri in front of both Will Munguia and Curtis Crummell, trying to see if he can catch up to Craig Smith and Adam Holland in front of them. We're just about hitting the halfway point of this race now.
Yeah, and we may see, like Eskridge, going in early to go ahead and take that pit stop. Of course, with him, there was also the penalty that goes along with it. But if you're in the middle of a battle and you just can't get around, trust yourself on your ability to crash the cone and get in there and get that pit stop done quickly, and use that to make your pass. That's the second easiest way to make a pass. First is the other guy goes off. Second is do it in the pits.
There's Crummell trying to dazzle the audience with his back and forth moves here down through the infield, but unfortunately the psychedelic colors are not wowing Munguia enough that he's going to pull aside and let him by, although he does defend, and this is backing them up into Steve Komatz as well. You weren't kidding when you're saying it built some pelotons here, not necessarily because of the draft though as much it seems. It just seems like drivers are fighting so hard, they're backing into each other.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the things that happens. You see it even in Formula One. You have little groupings of 4, 5, 6 cars, and even the touring car races that happen here in real life and in the sim. When you watch the races here, it always ends up with these little pelotons. And keep looking here at Chris Kummel's car. I was wondering maybe the mushrooms that I had in that risotto that I made earlier. I wasn't sure of the source, but now I feel better about it knowing that you see the same coloring I do.
Okay, that's good. By the way, Daniel Nix is now actually directly behind Ken Eskridge, who's getting blue flags, and he's going to let them go. Interesting. Unless he made some sort of mistake there. That was strange.
Well, if he is a lap down, he has to, because remember, he just came out of the pits with that penalty, so that is going to put him down quite a bit. And he's got a blue flag, which honestly is just informational.
Though, yeah. So he didn't. You can't pull over.
Yeah, but you also can't impede. So you can't really race them. You can stay in your race, but if you look around him, he doesn't really have a race going on. If you look where he is, that far back, he's in P26. He is 27 seconds off the next car in front of him, which is David Boyer.
That's still going to be painful knowing that he's lost yet more time. Meanwhile, back out onto the track, Crummell fighting to stay ahead of Mark Frost and Eli Peacock. He didn't have a penalty to serve, so he's in and out with a pretty standard time, actually a relatively quick time out of those who have stopped. He was about a second faster than Michael Adams, who pitted about 4 laps ago. We're now checking in with Steve Komatz, though, here in 14th. Will Munguia. These two have been kind of at it for a little bit. They have lost touch with Boccieri just in front, though.
Yeah, and if we want to take a look back up towards the front in that top 5, it looks like Adam Gerling is trying to close down and take a little bit of a peek at the podium, that last podium spot on John Gibson. So Gerling has really closed this down. He is down to about 3 or 4 tenths off of Gerling, and this is from a fairly large gap that existed earlier. Now, I don't know if that is from a little battle that may be going on with some cars that have already gone through their pit stop rotation or what, but ooh, somebody just went off there. Be careful coming back on. We don't want to get into the middle of another race.
Exactly, and that's Andy Green there. So that is not for position. He's just trying to stay out of their way and keep up his own time. But Gerling would probably like him out of the way sooner rather than later. And so would John Gibson, fighting for this 3rd position. And indeed, actually, well, no, that's going to be Ken Eskridge once again, the one who pulls over.
Yeah, I think Ken may be in the I gave up mode at this point, because I've been there. You get going and you think you've got something going really well. You're leading the race or in the top 3 or whatever.
Oh,
and you
no. Sorry, Gibson pitted in, but he almost came to a complete halt there when he hit the cones.
That was a new way of crashing the cones. I've never thought of it that way.
And that's going to cost him a lot of time. This is going to be a slow stop because of that. He was in such a tight fight. Unfortunately, this might not go the way to think that he planned. So a critical mistake there in the pit stops, and Gerling is now freed up because of that. Meanwhile, Daniel Nix is about 2 seconds ahead up at the front. He has run away from Jordan Daniels. This man, though, what an introduction to this series. He came in from entry, we believe, which is the lowest level you can race in PCA, and a pretty decent jump. He basically skipped over the challenge class and is now into sport here and running in the top 5.
That's pretty good. Now, just because somebody's in that entry level doesn't mean anything other than they are new to PCA. With very few exceptions, everybody's going to start out there. They have to prove their mettle. They need to show that they are a good, respectful racer, not just fast, but respectful of the other races going on and the other drivers on track. And I think we're seeing a very good example of that in Mark Collingwood, who's been able to run a fast race. He's up to P4 already, and just doing everything right, doing exactly what he's supposed to. So once again, the PCA method is working.
Absolutely. Good to see the progression. How much higher can he go? Certainly looks like he won't be in the challenge, of course, for the championship because he missed too many races. But here we go. Battle down back between the likes of Holland, Smith, and Boccieri. This has been a good race for Boccieri, up 11 positions, but he's been done way better by both Smith and Holland, 16 and 21 positions each respectively. But don't throw this away, boys. You can fight, but don't fight too hard. We've seen too many battles go south here already.
Oh, and that was almost a replay of the incident earlier with Nix, but looks like they may have seen that on one of the big screens around the track, like Fernando Alonso was doing.
Yeah, and well, that didn't go well for Craig Smith. He's going to lose the spot to Carl Boccieri. So Adam Holland now up to 9th, Boccieri into 10th position. And I think I just saw Steve Komatz head into pit, so there's another driver taking their scheduled stop and should be back out and rolling pretty soon. Mid-pack has been giving us some great fights today, honestly.
And I was going to say, Carl Boccieri has been really hungry tonight. He is up 12 positions, but put those numbers the other way. 12 becomes 21 when you look at Adam Holland, up 21 positions already. This is really a fantastic mid-pack battle that's going on, while Daniel Nix has kind of checked out at about 2.5 seconds ahead of Jordan Daniels.
Yeah, they may have to hand a few positions over because I think some of those who have pitted, John Gibson, Lee Binkley, Michael Adams, I think were either ahead or around them. So we may see some of those gains go away once they cycle through their stops, but not a lot of them. This is pretty legitimate here of what they have made up to this stage. Will Munguia trying to see if he can become a part of the fight from behind them as Craig Smith now stalking Carl Boccieri, trying to see if he can return the favor. Carl's going to defend the inside as they reach top gear, coming into the braking, but nope, nothing doing there.
Yeah, Carl had a masterful application of the brakes offline there, able to hold his position. Nice modulation. So I was watching from a different camera angle also, where I had a nice view from above, and I could watch the modulation that Carl Boccieri did going into turn 1 there. Really nicely done, beautiful defense, but he's going to have to defend a little bit harder as we had a little nose peek around, and it looks like the 74 is going to be able to get around past him. Carl Boccieri loses 1 position. Is it going to be 2-0 contact? Carl tries to come back. He's got an overlap on the inside, decides to leave this fight for another corner.
It's the curse of the Ware Brazilian. They're all getting a little bit heated up and spicy out here. And Will Munguia is going to try and give it a go as well. Car-to-car contact, but thankfully nobody spun out between Boccieri and Smith. Craig is going to get that 10th place back in the meantime. Let's see what Carl thinks about that, though.
Well, my curiosity is, will himself past Carl Boccieri?
Absolutely. I got to think he's going to try and do his best to get this one back. And with 20-some minutes left, I'm sure he's got the time to try and make an attack in front of him. That was a little wide from Adam Holland, and he's very slow. Holland is trying to pick up a little slipstream from Ken Eskridge, who's trying to stay out of their way, but he is looking like he could be under threat as Craig Smith got one this last lap. Can he make it 2 for 2? Down into pit lane, Holland says, I'm not going to get involved in this. I'm going to take my stop now.
Yeah, good choice from Holland. Had a horrible launch coming out of Gonçalves, and seeing what that opportunity was about to cost him, he jumped into pit lane to try to see if he could recover or at least not lose that position, as Andrew Ellison is making that same move that Daniel Nix did, but not able to make it stick around the last part of the Senna S. Can he come back, though, as we come down to turn 4 into Interlagos?
So this will move Adam Holland out of the fight. He's taking his service and he's getting back out. John Gibson, still our highest driver to have pitted 3 laps ago, and he's sitting in 12th spot. And it looks like Holland's going to return in 21st. Boccieri still holding on hard, trying to see what he can do with these guys and find a couple more spots. But Craig Smith is making a fight of it. A peek to the inside down to Esse from Will Munguia, rather, but that's not going to quite work. This actually is John Gibson, and this is bad news for him. These drivers might be a fight for position on track, but they're off strategy from him.
Yeah, off strategy, that's going to be Will Munguia in front of him. Will has been, like I said, willing himself around coming up into Gonçalves. Will has gotten really good launches out of here, but so has Carl right in front of him. They're able to open up just a little bit of a gap to John Gibson. So we were watching Gibson doing better through that infield section. Meanwhile, Kevin Yockel takes his pit stop. How long is he going to be here? He's got a little bit of a battle going on ahead of him.
Yeah, Yockel maybe trying to see if he can leapfrog those that were fighting, if they're going to slow each other up. No change of position now between Carl and Munguia. Oh, and Munguia's wide. Here comes John Gibson. This could be his chance to manage to get by.
Yeah, he's trying to make this run out. Gets a little bit wider on the exit, but look at that defense from Munguia. He is holding just one car length to the inside. That's just enough to prevent that ability to dive down on the inside, but makes it too hard to be on the outside. Good defense from Will.
Absolutely. Everybody in this group has been racing fantastically. It got a little sketchy before. Andy Green, who I believe is a lap down. Yeah, so that's not for position.
Oh, that was not for position. Sorry. I got excited for a second there.
I've done that so many times. So Green's just trying to make up what he's lost here after getting involved with a black flag there at the start and kind of ruining his own race. And it doesn't seem like it's really going all that well since then. He probably will get, I think, his lap back once everybody else pits. He's trying to see if he can overtake Will Munguia, and that might slow Will up quite a bit. Look at this battle now between Carl Boccieri, who looks good on the brakes, coming down to the junction, but he can't quite get close enough to Smith.
Yeah, Carl Boccieri doing, like I said before, when they went down into turn 1, he's got a really fine feel of modulation on that brake pedal. Watch for him as we come up to Senna S here. I think we're going to see a bit of a defensive move from our PA Craig Smith. Nope, not going to need to, because Carl has decided to go and take his pit stop.
Ah, interesting. Will Munguia also going to be pitting in. Collingwood's taking his stop. Looks like I think Williams has as well, and Gibson is going to be right with Collingwood. It's going to be just barely half a second between them at the pit exit.
Yeah, let's watch them coming out of the pit. Now, this is a very difficult thing. When you come out of the pit, it is so twisty and tight coming through there. You don't have a lot of room. So it's really difficult to get your speed up and blend into the traffic. You almost end up being a rolling chicane. We're on board here with Will Munguia. See how narrow this is coming through here? You are right up on the wall. You cannot touch that grass. And then it kind of tricks you. It gives you that little bit of pavement right there. But then grass comes back. Will comes down, puts the hammer down. Now, where is Will going to come out here? He is still in P2, right behind Andrew Ellison. He is trying to close this up, doing a nice positioning of the car to make sure that looks like Ward Preston, I think, behind. No, it was not Ward Preston behind him.
Oh, but Nix is in. Our leader pits. Jordan Daniel pits as well. Now he gets the spot in front of him because he qualified higher. And definitely some tires being taken by Jordan Daniels. Waiting on Nix to go, though. 17, 18 seconds. A slightly slow stop compared to some others. But he was pulling out a gap, and he is going to still be ahead of Jordan Daniels, even despite Jordan, I think what happened to Jordan there on the exit? Looked like maybe he had an issue?
I think he might have gotten a little bit wiggly with those new tires, not quite up to temperature yet. Meanwhile, Adam Gerling is trying to close this up. I don't think he's going to be able to do it. Yeah, because he's still coming out of the pits here. So this is Jordan Daniels. Watch him right here. Maybe hits a little bit of that grass.
It was before this, but I went back and looked. He just kind of slows. I'm not entirely sure. I don't think he's sped in pit lane because, I mean, slowing wouldn't do anything. He's past the cones here.
Look, yeah, right there on the right-hander got a little bit wiggly, but then still slows beyond that. Maybe just didn't feel comfortable with the car at that point.
I'm not sure, but it did cost him time. He's now 6.5 seconds behind Daniel Nix, who's looking more than comfortable than ever. Gerling 10 seconds behind. He's pretty safe there. Gibson with his early stop is in fourth, but Gerling's going to remain ahead of him. Although I think, wasn't Gibson in front of him before the pit stops?
There's been so much shuffling of position, I'm not quite certain. Yeah, at some point I will go ahead and say yes. Yes, there was at one point before that, absolutely. But where it was immediately prior, hard to say. But meanwhile, we're taking a look at Krummel on De Silva. Krummel has closed up quite a bit and is getting pretty jiggy on this little battle here. Trying to show some nose, get those headlights in the mirror. Now, watch as we come down to Yunsao. Is he going to be able to get a good launch out of here? We've got two cars in front of this battle. That's going to be, I believe, Gill and Adams also trying to have their own little battle. That's a good run out of the corner, but still, I think, a bit too much for Krummel to make this up by the time they get to Senna S.
And Carl just lost a bunch of spots. Oh, we had an incident. That battle between Boccieri and Komats came to a head, unfortunately. And they wound up making contact. And unfortunately, Adam Holland eventually got involved.
Yeah, I think Carl may have been asking for the review on that one. Let's take a look here as we come up in around the orange. No, it's just Pico de Bato. Oh,
That's
it was hard to see. Yeah, it was hard to see if there was actual contact there. Hard to say. We'd have to see a different angle if we could as they come around there. It was pretty tight. Let's see if we can watch here from this top. So we're going to see Komats coming up in here. Gets the nose in. Yeah. That's definite contact. I think that's going to be a penalty for Komats. Besides the one that was given to him by that red car with a little tap from the rear.
Yeah, extra damage to boot. That's not going to be very fun. Slowing them all up and now forcing a battle between Elsom, Holland, Smith, and Munguia. Whoa, no! Craig Smith just had a problem right there on screen, and Robert Neville is the one that suffers from it getting tipped around.
Oh, we might need to see a replay of that one. It was pretty dramatic. We don't generally like to show mistakes here, but that was quite the dramatic run through as we go to the replay. Watch as they're coming through the corner. Now, that's the red car right in the center of your screen. Gets out a little bit wide. Not too bad, though. Oh, you know what? That's contact. That was contact and double contact. Oh, my. All right, the stewards are going to have a look at that one. That was definitely an assisted run around the outside on that one right there. You know, it's hard to say. That's clearly not intentional, but you know, you still have to be careful. You intentional or not, sometimes those penalties come about, and you feel bad about it. Yeah, I didn't mean to do that to you, but you know, I still made the mistake. I have to take the lumps on that one.
Yep, exactly. And apologies to Carl. That was not Carl Boccieri. That was Will Munguia making that contact. The 907 So Steve Komatz did get his penalty already. I figured that wouldn't take long for the stewards to look that one over. He's already trying to serve it, but he's going to unfortunately fall well down the order with only 11 minutes left. And now Will Munguia has also gotten a black flag. Drivers got to keep their heads. I know it's late in the race, but you can't be making silly mistakes like that.
Yeah, and I think Neville is, Neville has the meatball flag on that one. Let's get back on board, though, with Daniel Nix out in first place. Kind of a place he wanted to be the whole race. His qualifying didn't work out so well for him. He was back in P4, made up 2 positions on the start, and has just been driving it like a master, even with that little bit of contact that we saw earlier on, able to hold on to the car, and now he's just keeping it out there. He's got an 8-second lead over Jordan Daniels.
I mean, the way this race is looking, the only thing that I could see Daniel being annoyed about is he's not going to get the full bonus points for qualifying position. You get 35 extra points for qualifying on pole, and for where he finished, or he qualified in 4th, it'll be 24 positions, I believe. No, 28 positions, it looks like, for a 4th place quali. So he's not going to be, I think, too mad about that in the end, as we're watching Eli Peacock a little bit farther down, fighting with Mark Frost just in front. Frost not looking all that quick off of the junction. It's going to be a great run for Eli.
Yeah, and meanwhile, looks like Carl Balcieri has gotten around Adam Holland. But Peacock doing a nice job there. That was a nice pass to watch. But for those of you who are trying to follow what's going on with Carl, he was able to get around there. But back on board here, Eli Peacock, look at that beautiful control of brakes going down into Senna S. Just masterfully does it, puts the car exactly in the right position, takes as much curbing as he can get away with, hammer down, drive on down to turn 4.
Yeah, up 9 from where he began this race. He's got to be feeling pretty good here, Eli Peacock. The drivers carry that battle on. I was trying to see what else is happening. By the way, Gibson and Gerling, despite having themselves separated a little bit by the pit stops, are back together once again, and it's to decide the final step on the podium again. This time with Gerling ahead of Gibson, being forced to go defensive down into the Senna S. It's like Gibson going to have to back out of it.
Yeah, Gibson knows there's a little bit of time left in this race. So if we're looking at a minute 41-ish per lap, and we've got about 8 minutes 20 or so left here, he's got time. All he needs to do is pester. This is the 3rd P of the 3 Ps for those who follow some of my writings and are watching or are doing coaching sessions with me. We always talk about the 3 Ps, the 3rd of which is pester. And John Gibson has got pester absolutely in spades right here. Watch him just fill that right mirror, move over to the left, back to the right. These are subtle moves that annoy the driver in front of you, because now they see you in one mirror, then the other, then again back. It's just that mind game that you have to play at a track like this if you want to get around. Said it earlier, you have to wait for them to make a mistake and then be prepared to capitalize on it. And I think John Gibson has put himself right up underneath the wing here, and he's filling those mirrors better than almost anybody we've seen in this race.
Yeah, so can he make good on this? Can he manage to get that overtake done? Does he have enough pace? Definitely looks like he's pretty quick here, but he's still got a few more laps to go. They've got David Palmer in front of them. That's a lapped car. So hopefully he'll get out of the way if they start to catch him any more than this, although he could be slightly quicker than him, considering he had to serve a penalty earlier, and that has set him backwards. Meanwhile, checking in on the fight between Yokel here and Lee Binkley, who is at least up to 6th. He's up 8 positions, but he needs more than this because he's going to continue to lose points to Daniel Nix as it sits.
Yeah, it looks like Binkley's holding on to P6 here in that Brumos livery Porsche. And yeah, he's able to hold a nice little gap here as they come out of the Senna S heading down to Desira del Lago.
Up in front of him, still can't come in. Mark Collingwood enough here on this drive into 5th, and don't think we've really seen him involved in any action. He's basically just plugged away and has been doing this one on sheer pace. So a top 5 potentially for that number 16, as long as he can bring it home. What about Mark Frost, though? Back in 20th, he's got Eli Peacock just in front of him. Peacock, having recently moved into 19th, is in no mood to give this one over. But as Frost trots up to Peacock, it looks like he's not going to be able to get it here, although he tries for the over-under, but gets blocked at the apex.
Yeah, you can, when you're on the inside there, when you're the car trying to defend the corner, you can slightly overslow and get away with it, and that really messes up that over-under attempt. The best thing for him to do is try to outbrake and stay around the outside, like we've seen a couple of successful attempts work here today. But still, very good defense, doing exactly what he needs to do to stay in that position.
Anker Bergzona here in the number 25, chasing 20th. So still got a battle between Peacock and Frost, but now Frost also has to be watching behind him on top of that. And in fact, I can see a red car in front of them. That's Craig Smith. So it's a 4-car battle starting to build.
Yeah, Craig Smith is trying to defend against Eli Peacock with Mark Frost right behind Peacock. Anker is, I think, just sitting back waiting for these guys to take each other out or slow each other down at a minimum. But notice, so Anker right there was the last car, that orange and yellow car in the train, having a much better arc presented as he went through that I call it the final corner, because honestly, this really is not a corner here. This is not a turn. Sure, they gave it a number, but no, it's not a corner. But Anker had a much better line through there. He was making much more efficient use of the car and the tires. So I think he's just kind of biding his time, and I think we're going to see him move up probably 1, maybe 2 positions through here.
Ooh, Craig's a little slow down through the first corner, and that means Peacock can easily slip by and move up into 18th now. Smith still having problems. Did he underfuel the car? Maybe he's letting all of them go, so they all get promoted up 1 position. Interesting stuff. Now, I will say about those last few corners of Water Tower and Subidos dos Boxes, try it in the Lotus 49. It's a corner, I assure you.
Okay, in any modern car, it's not, I mean, I've driven it even in old touring cars from back in the like 90s era, and that was tough. It was tough, but you were still pedal to the metal all the way through, and you had no downforce, really bad tires, and yeah, they were kind of skinny, and even in the rain, we were able to go through full tilt boogie.
Whew. That had to have been an interesting experience. Meanwhile, as they come around the duckspill once again, Peacock's not out of the woods. Mark Frost is still behind him, and we've had a problem with Carl Boccieri in front of them. He's going to try and pick up pace. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to catch up to him or not, but he was definitely off track there. Not sure if anybody else was involved. It's already been a number of dramas here for Carl late in this race.
Yeah, Carl has been, well, kind of a one-man show. He's been doing some beautiful driving, but looks like a little bit too much curbing on the outside. Just tried to cut in a little bit too soon. Just a light tag on the wall with the rear, but the front, that's going to be really what messes him up here. Notice, though, does exactly what he's supposed to. Waits for the cars to come by. Does not interfere in the race going on with the other cars.
2 laps to go here for our drivers as Nix crosses the line with just about 2 minutes left on the clock, and now it is 8.5 seconds over Jordan Daniels. Still not sure why we saw Jordan slow as much as he did. Probably wouldn't have made the biggest of difference unless we get some sort of mess up from Daniel in these next 2 laps. But still have to think that Jordan probably could have been a little closer if he hadn't have slowed up coming out of pit lane. And that is not Gerling behind him. Gerling's about 7.7 seconds back there. Now you can see him coming out of the Curve de Sol and trying to play catch up there while still trying to keep John Gibson behind him.
Yeah, so it's really a fight for that last podium spot between Gerling and Gibson. Still about a half a second between them, but not to throw it back to where we were talking before. It looks like Anker Bergzona is trying to make a move. Let's stick with this here. See, there's Anker right now. He has really closed this up. He is just sticking right there, absolutely pacing him, and it looks very, very calculated.
Let's stick with this, see if anything can happen. He's definitely too far back right now, but if he can get just close enough here, and he actually will have 2 more laps to do it as they came by this time, because Nix is just coming up to the start-finish line right now, and there is the white flag. He's not close enough to lap those cars we were watching in that battle, so they're going to get some extra time to try and settle this out. That car in front of him currently is Steve Komatz in 22nd. So we've had quite a few cars that have gotten lapped. And now we've also had Robert Neville in the 087 be our second retiree.
Yeah, on board with Komatz here in P22. Taking a look out the back. Yeah, he's trying to hold on. That would be Daniel Nix. Wondering if he needs to overtake him. Does Steve have anybody he's close to? He's got about, 12 seconds in front of him. He may want for Nix to go around him so he doesn't have to do another lap. It would be highly unusual to see Craig Smith, who's about 11, 12 seconds out in front of Komatz, make an 11 or 12 second mistake. So if I were Smith, Komatz, I think I might want to go ahead and let the leader go on around.
Yeah, nothing to lose, really. Just kind of finish your race a little early. Although maybe he could pick up the spot if somebody wrecks if he carries on. We'll see what he elects to do, what kind of mood he is in. I got to think that Daniel Nix is going to be in a fantastic mood because, yes, he didn't get the pole on this one, but it's still going to be a sweep of 4 for 4 for this number 20 car. And Daniel Nix, as he comes past Water Tower and into Subidos dos Boxes, the number 20 takes the 4th out of 5 races in Series 10. Utter domination.
Yeah, beautifully done. Nice finish there from Daniel Nix. Started in P4, able to pull it out and bring the win. Meanwhile, Jordan Daniels, watch him here coming across the line in P2. Nicely done. He was up 1 position on the day. P3 looks like it's going to be a nice fight between Gerling and Gibson. About a quarter second between them. Nice race to the finish, though.
Collingwood managed to get that top 5 in his first time of asking here in the sport class. Nicely done. Waiting for the rest of the drivers to get to the line. Does look like Peacock, Frost, and Bergzona are still in a fight for that 18th position. They do have Carl Boccieri, who's had a lot of dramas. Hopefully he didn't cut that fuel too tight since he's had a number of spins and off tracks up there.
Yeah, and Peacock was able to get around Frost. Now it's Anker Bergzona's turn to try to get around. He's still about 8/10 off the back of these guys. Something must have happened. I think he got wiggly off of a corner. Just couldn't get the power down right or something, so he's a little bit too far back. But meanwhile, Frost wants to take the fight back. He's got a really good run. Can he close this up? He is right up under the rear wing. This is a battle for P18. It's going that deep into here as he cuts down to the inside, pushes him to the wall, and it's going to be Peacock taking 18th over Frost by 0.090.
Whew, 900ths of a second between them. Komatz did decide to take that final lap and complete everyone, so kudos to him, but that's going to take us to a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. break a little earlier if that's going to be the case. He's actually got a nose ahead as they come down into the braking zone. He's going to do it the hard way.
If you're a Porsche owner looking for reliable, convenient service without leaving the comfort of your home or office, look no further and take advantage of the Exchange at Home complimentary pickup and drop-off service exclusively at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park. At the Porsche Exchange, it's all about creating a legendary ownership experience that embodies our guest lifestyle. Our Porsche service team utilizes cutting-edge technology that delivers a transparent service visit and keeps us in constant contact with our guests. And I can't think of anyone more qualified to work on your Porsche, new or classic, than our Porsche certified technicians. Whether you're a longtime guest or new to our dealership, I welcome you to experience legendary at the Porsche Exchange.
Welcome back to Interlagos. The sport class wound up being Daniel Nix's anyways, even if he couldn't get his qualifying as well as he wanted. He took the win by about 10 seconds over Jordan Daniels, with Adam Gerling having to fight hard for that podium. A reminder, Gerling started from 10th, so that was a pretty nice run from him. Gibson finished 4th, and Mark Collingwood, who jumps up for his first race in this class to finish in the top 5. Lee Binkley was 6th, so unfortunately going to lose a number of points to Daniel Nix today, and Kevin Yokel was P7. That was Michael Adams in 8th. Patrick Gill up 11 to finish 9th, and Antonio Da Silva gets a top 10.
And Curtis Crummell bringing some really good television for us to watch. Beautiful racing through there in P11 alongside, not alongside, but a little bit of a gap back to Jeff Williams in P12. Andrew Ellison, Matthew Scott, Ward Preston, Adam Holland in 16th, 17th. Carl Bulcieri, another one who brought us a lot of really exciting racing. And right there at the end, Eli Peacock and Mark Frost. Wow, what a finish. Anker Bergzona rounding out the top 20, trying to be part of that little battle.
Then when we get down to 21st, Craig Smith and Steve Komatz were the last two on the lead lap, with Green, Palmer, Munguia, Boyer, Teague all going a lap down. Ken Eskridge wound up 3 laps down, although he was very, very polite in that race. I think he still could have fought to stay on the lead lap. And then the rest were DNFs, unfortunately. So I believe that's going to take us to Daniel Nix, and his whole race didn't necessarily start that great. Daniel, what was going on in qualifying? Because it looked like you had a few hiccups in there.
I made a pretty bad training decision. I ran 8 miles an hour before the race and couldn't feel my feet. So that was a brutal race. I can't wait to just roll out of this chair and go to bed.
Yeah, I have to think that is impressive stuff. Even still, you had managed to make your way up to 2nd by the first lap. I don't know if you expected that, but Michael here, interestingly enough, predicted that. So were you shocked that you made up those 2 spots that quickly, or did you kind of expect that you'd be able to charge forward that well?
It was a toss-up. You never know what's going to happen on turn 1, and it worked out pretty good for me. So I know Ken's pace is just unbelievably consistent, and he's fast, and I knew I needed to be behind him, and that was the only thing on my mind. Being able to stay in his draft for that race, because we fought really hard for quite a few laps.
It looked like a hard fight, and he was definitely making you try and work for that. Once you were able to get by, it's sad it came to the contact, but was it a bit of a relief? Did you feel like, okay, this is job done, I can just kind of scamper off into the distance, or were you still a little bit concerned about Daniels?
It was a bummer that, we had contact there. I was really looking forward to having a clean race with Ken, and I know he worked really hard, and he's just an amazing race car driver. So that was a bummer. But, without being too cocky, once Ken was gone, I knew that the race was good. And the rest of the race, I ran maybe 80%, and we're pretty good.
Again, impressive stuff. 4 out of 5. Congratulations, and hopefully we'll get to see it at Hockenheim as well.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.
Daniel Nix, your winner, and Michael has caught up with Jordan Daniels, who maybe can finally clear up what happened on that pit exit.
Yeah, I'm really curious. Let's start off first by talking about how well you were able to hold on to Daniel Nix. Now, Daniel just told us that he ran 8 miles an hour before the race. So I'm guessing you ran 10. That's why you were behind him.
I didn't, but it felt like 10 miles being up front like this during the most of the race. New territory for me, so definitely was a little nerve-wracking.
So you had pretty good pace. You were kind of just sticking with the similar gap lap after lap after lap, even 22 laps into the race, all the way up to the pit stop. And then there was the exit of the pit stop. What happened?
My pit limiter button on my steering wheel decided to stick. And so it took a little jamming of it over the course of 5 seconds while Nix got away from me. And luckily, it came undone and we were able to continue with the race. But yeah, blame it on the pit limiter
Were you
button.
screaming words you can't say on television while that was happening?
Absolutely. My mom would be upset.
We won't repeat what those words were, but I'm glad you were able to get that pit limiter unstuck. That would have been frustrating to have to run the rest of the race at pit limit speed, huh?
I don't think it would have been a P2.
No, for sure not. But it would have been impressive if you could have still stayed on the podium. You still had a pretty good gap at the end. It was another 8 or so seconds back to Gerling behind you. Was there any thought that he might be able to catch up, or did you think his battle with John Gibson was going to keep him pretty well occupied and nowhere near you?
That's exactly it. I knew that Gerling could catch up, so I saw him battling with John, and definitely that was a sigh of relief, just kind of seeing them battling back and forth, and I was able to turn laps.
So almost a Sunday drive here on a Thursday evening for you.
I wish. It was a little more challenging than that, but yeah, appreciate it.
So, well, beautiful job. Who do you have to thank for today's P2?
Podium, PCA, Six Sigma, everyone who volunteers for this group. It's extraordinary. The boys at Phoenix, Robbie Prescott, Jesse Leon, Daniel Nix, the boys up in Portland, Eli Peacock. Yeah, so everyone's super supportive. I'm new to this group and stoked to be a part of it.
Well, thank you, Jordan. We look forward to seeing you on the podium again here soon. But meanwhile, I believe, speaking of the battle between Adam Gerling and John Gibson, I think Joe has got Adam Gerling standing by to talk to us.
Absolutely. Before I get to that battle, though, I want to talk about the beginning of the race, Adam. I went back and checked. I didn't realize you had a front row seat to that pileup that happened. I mean, talk about that from your perspective.
Yeah, I was lucky to get through that. Obviously, pretty nervous going to T1 to see cars spinning out, but yeah, not sure I was appreciating all of it, but lucky to get through.
Now, as for that battle, very tightly contested between you two, but it wound up being the pit stops and strategy where you jumped him. Is that really what made the difference, or do you think you could have passed him anyways if you didn't leapfrog him?
Yeah, it was a great battle with John, and enjoyed that all race. He took an early pit stop. I was hanging out there waiting to make a move, but once he took the early pit stop, I knew I had to put down some quick laps and just hope that I'd get the jump on him after we came out the pits. I was lucky I did, right? But he put a lot of pressure on me those last couple of laps. I was definitely nervous.
Yeah, impressive stuff. You got a little help with the accident to jump up 7 spots, but still a well-earned podium here, and obviously helps you a bit in the championship to try and overtake Crummell and Binkley. Heading off into the next round on that note, we're back into the 911 GT3R at Hockenheim. Think you can keep this up and spray some more champagne?
We'll see. Hopefully the luck continues, but I don't know Hockenheim. We haven't raced there very much. Completely new track to me, so it'll be time to practice over the next couple of weeks.
All right. Well, we hope to see you again. And again, congratulations on a podium.
Thank you.
Adam Gerling jumping up from 10th to 3rd here today. Make sure and join us here tomorrow night because we're not done with Interlagos yet. That'll be Thursday, May 18th at 9:25 p.m. Eastern for the Challenge class. Last of the Interlagos races we'll be covering. We'd like to thank our sponsors for Series 10, which includes the Porsche Exchange and Six Sigma Sim Racing. Big thank you goes out to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, and a huge thanks to our team tonight, Michael, Ryan, Cameron, and Dougie. Also, none of this is possible without those behind the scenes of Podium Esports, Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track.